Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकीम् ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna, reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 4, Satī quits her body. So Satī, in the discussion, very strongly condemning her own father Daksha. And now we come to text 22. A wonderful verse this is. We will recite this. नैतेन देहेन हरे कृतागसो
नैतेन हरे कृतागसो
देहे देहोद्भवेन अलमलं कुजन्मना
देहोद्भवेनालम् अलम् कुजन्मना
व्रीडाममाभूत् कुजन प्रसंग
क्रीडामभूत् कुजन
जन्मधिक्या महतामवद्यकृत्
तज्जन्यो महताम् अवद्यकृत्.
Translation.
You are an offender at the lotus feet of Lord Shiva, and unfortunately, I have a body produced from yours. I am very much ashamed of our bodily relationship, and I condemned myself because my body is contaminated by a relationship with a person who is an offender at the lotus feet of the greatest personality. Purport: Lord Shiva is the greatest of all devotees of Lord Vishnu. It is stated, Vaishnava Yatha Shambhu. Shambhu, Lord Shiva, is the greatest of all devotees of Lord Vishnu. In the previous verses, Satī has described that Lord Shiva is always in a transcendental position because he is situated in pure Vasudeva. Vasudeva is that state from which Krishna, Vasudeva, is born. So Lord Shiva is the greatest devotee of Lord Krishna, and Sati's behavior is exemplary because no one should tolerate blasphemy against Lord Vishnu or his devotee. Sati is aggrieved, not for her personal association with Lord Shiva, but because her body is related with that of Daksha, who is an offender at the Lord Shiva's lotus feet. She feels herself to be condemned because of the body given by her father Daksha. Hare Krishna.
So now Sati, she says, Naiteha dehena hare krutagaso. Therefore, you have done this great aparadha to Hare. Hare is Lord Shiva. And therefore, because I have the body which is connected with you, later, because she is known as Dakshayani also. And Lord Shiva, sometimes to tease her, he used to call her as Dakshayani. Like, sometimes Lord Krishna, just to tease Satyabhama, used to call her Satrajiti, reference to her father, like that, taunting. So, Satrajiti, especially if Satyabhama is not in sync with the Lord's plan, and that's what the mood of Satyabhama is. Then Lord Krishna used to call her, O Satrajiti. So sometimes here also previous verses, where Lord Shiva is calling, "Oh Dakshayani." So because just giving a reference to their father in that way. And now she says, because this body is condemned because you have offended Lord Shiva, and this body is connected to you. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that Lord Shiva is the greatest personality. Vaiṣṇavanam yatha Shambhu. So in the thread, look at, there is a continuous connection with the Supreme Lord. Lord Shiva is meditating, sorry, I was cut off. And here, Srila Prabhupada says,
Not audible, Prabhu.
ultimate, or one should immediately leave the place. So these are the two options a devotee has. And most of the time, it is better to leave the place than try to correct the situation. Her body is related with Daksha, who is offender at the lotus feet of Lord Shiva, and therefore now she resolves to give up her body. Text 23. Gotram tvadiyam bhagavan rishadvaja dakshayani ityaha yada sudurmana vyapeda narmasmitashu tadaham vyatrukshak etat kunapam tvajangam.
Translation: because of a family relationship, when Lord Shiva addresses me as Dakshani, I at once become morose, and my jolliness and my smile at once disappear. I feel very much sorry that my body, which is just like a bag, has been produced by you. I shall therefore give it up. Purport: the word Dakshani means the daughter of King Daksha. Sometimes, when there was relaxed conversation between husband and wife, Lord Shiva used to call Satī the daughter of King Daksha, and because this very word reminded her about her family relationship with King Daksha, she at once became ashamed because Daksha was an incarnation of all offenses. Daksha was the embodiment of envy, for he unnecessarily blasphemed a great personality, Lord Shiva. Simply upon hearing the word Dakshyani, she felt afflicted because of reference to the context, because the body was the symbol of all the offensiveness with which Daksha was endowed. Since the body was constantly a source of unhappiness, she decided to give it up. Hare Krishna.
So here she says, in some relaxed conversation, Lord Shiva addresses me as Dakshayani, and I at once become morose. My joyfulness, my smile at once disappear. And therefore, this bag, this bag of my body, now look at this, Sati is on such a self-realized position. There is no need to teach her that you are not the body or the spirit soul. She herself is saying that. Just like this bag, my body has been produced by you, I shall give it up. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, Dakshayani means daughter of King Daksha. And whenever Lord Shiva used to refer her as Dakshayani, she used to feel very morose, and she used to at once feel ashamed. And now she decides that she has nothing to do with Daksha, and anything to do with Daksha was this body, and therefore Sati decides to give up this body. Now we come to the next section of Bhagavad, this chapter, that is text 24 to 27, where Sati gives up her body. Text 24. Maitreya uvacha ityadvare dakshamanudya shatruhan kshita budim chi nishasada shantavak sprishtva jalam pita dukula samvrita nimilya drukyogapatham samavishad. Translation.
Maitreya, the sage, told Vidura, O annihilator of enemies, while thus speaking to her father in the arena of sacrifice, Sati sat down on the ground and faced north. Dressed in saffron garments, she sanctified herself with water and closed her eyes to absorb herself in the process of mystic yoga. Purport: it is said that when a man desires to quit his body, he dresses in saffron garments. Therefore, it appears that Sati changed her dress, indicating that she was going to quit the body given her by Daksha. Daksha was Sati's father. So instead of killing Daksha, she decided that it would be better to destroy the part of his body which was hers. Thus, she decided to give up the body of Daksha by the yogic process. Sati was the wife of Lord Shiva, who is known as Yogeshwar, the best among all yogis, because he knows all the mystic processes of yoga. So it appeared that Sati also knew them. Either she learned yoga from her husband or she was enlightened because she was the daughter of such a great king as Daksha. The perfection of yoga is that one can give up one's body or release oneself from the embodiment of material elements according to one's desire. Yogis who have attained perfection are not subject to death by natural laws. Such perfect yogis can leave the body whenever they desire. Generally, the yogi first of all becomes mature in controlling the air passing within the body, thus bringing the soul to top of the brain. Then, when the body bursts into flames, the yogi can go anywhere he likes. This yoga system recognizes the soul and thus it is distinct from the so-called yoga process for controlling the cells of the body, which has been discovered in the modern age. The real yoga process accepts the transmigration of the soul from one planet to another or one body to another. And it appears from this incident that Sati wanted to transfer her soul to another body or sphere.
Yeah. So Maitreya continued to Vidura, O annihilator of enemies, Shatruhan. While thus speaking to her father in that great sacrifice, Sati sat down, dressed in saffron, and faced north. Any spiritual activity, it's towards north, and therefore she faced north. She sanctified herself with water and closed her eyes to absorb herself in the process of mystic yoga. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, to wear saffron means to give up one's body or bodily conception of life. And the Sati changed her dress, indicating that now she is going to quit her body, which was given by Daksha. So Daksha was Sati's father, and instead of destroying Daksha, she thought, Daksha's body, well, one part of Daksha's body is me myself, so I will destroy my own body, giving up by the process of mystic yoga. Somebody may say, Sati, did she know mystic yoga? Of course, because her husband is Yogeshwara, right? Both Lord Krishna is called as Yogeshwara and Lord Shiva is also called as Yogeshwara. And being the wife of Yogeshwara, who is the master of all the yogas, Sati knew very well the system of mystic yoga process, and especially the art of giving up one's body. Prabhupada says, the perfection of yoga is one can give up the body or release oneself from the bodily entanglement according to one's desire, that is called as Icchamrityu. Bhishma Dev had this, the perfection. He had the Icchamrityu, and that's why he was waiting for a long time for Uttarayan to appear. Uttarayan externally means the seasons, the period of the second half of the year, Uttarayan, and also it means he was waiting for Lord Krishna, who has also appeared in the womb of Uttara. Even Srila Prabhupada, in the final days, he was saying that Lord Krishna has given me free will, that I can stay or go, but I will decide to leave now. Right? So this is the perfection of yoga. So the yogis per se, to the degree they advance in yoga system, they will transcend the material laws. Material laws will not act on them. And they can actually bring their soul to the Brahmarandra, which is at the top of the one's hair, to the head. And from there, fully concentrating, the soul will burst out from the body. And whichever object, whichever destination they decide at that moment, they can actually go to that destination. So they can think of a Brahmaloka, they can think of Satyaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, even they can think of Vaikuntha. And this is the real yoga transformation. Prabhupada says, modern days, people think of yoga means only body, but the real yoga is all about soul and transmigration of the soul and not just transformation of the body, which is being minimized in these days. Right. Text 25. Kruta samanam anilaujitasana सोदानमुत्थाप्य नाभि च चक्रतः शनैर्हृदयस्थाप्य धियोरसि स्थितः कंठात् भ्रुवो मध्यमनिन्दित आनयत्. Translation.
First of all, she sat in the required sitting posture, and then she carried the life air upwards and placed it in the position of equilibrium near the navel. Then she raised her life air, mixed with intelligence, to the heart and then gradually towards the pulmonary passage, and from there to between her eyebrows. Purport: the yogic process is to control the air passing within the body in different places called Sat Chakra, the 6 circles of air circulation. The air is raised from the abdomen to the navel, from the navel to the heart, from the heart to the throat, from the throat to between the eyebrows, and from between the eyebrows to the top of the cerebrum. That is the sum and substance of practicing yoga. Before practicing the real yoga system, one has to practice the sitting postures because this helps in the breathing exercises which control the airs going upwards and downwards. This is a great technique which one has to practice to attain the highest perfectional stage of yoga. But such practice is not meant for this age. No one in this age can attain the perfectional stage of such yoga, but people indulge in practicing sitting postures, which is more or less a gymnastic process. By such bodily gymnastics, one may develop good circulation and may therefore keep one's body fit. But if one simply restricts oneself to that gymnastic process, one cannot attain the highest perfectional stage. The yoga process, as described in the Keshava prescribes how one can control his living force according to his desire and transmigrate from one body to another or from one place to another. In other words, yoga practice is not meant to keep the body fit. Any transcendental process of spiritual realization automatically helps one to keep the body fit, for it is the spirit soul that keeps the body always fresh. As soon as the spirit soul is out of the body immediately begins to decompose. Any spiritual process keeps the body fit without separate endeavor. But if one takes it that the ultimate aim of yoga is to maintain the body, then he is mistaken. The real perfection of yoga is elevation of the soul to a higher position or the liberation of the soul from material entanglement. Some yogis try to elevate the soul to higher planetary systems, where the standard of life is different from that of this planet and where the material comforts, lifespan, and other facilities for self-realization are greater, and some yogis endeavor to elevate the soul to the spiritual world, the spiritual Vaikuntha planets. The Bhakti Yoga process directly elevates the soul to the spiritual planets where life is eternally blissful and full of knowledge. Therefore, Bhakti Yoga is considered to be the greatest of all yoga systems.
And now this is the process of how Sati elevated herself, right? She sat in the required sitting posture, that is asana. So how quickly she is doing. She controlled the air within, that is pranayam, and she began to raise. She raised her life air, prana, mixed with intelligence, dhiya, to the heart and gradually towards the pulmonary passage and from there between her eyebrows. So this is, Prabhupada says, this is the sum and substance of the practice of yoga, that there is a Kundalini Shat Chakra system and the 6 circles of air circulation. Air is raised from abdomen to the navel, from navel to the heart, from heart to the throat, and from throat between the eyebrows, and from between the eyebrows to the top of the cerebrum. And this is how one is actually raising oneself. And this is how the yoga practice is all about. It begins with asana and then goes ahead with pranayam, and then it just moves on the sequence that is being mentioned here. And another point Prabhupada says, nowadays people practice whatever that yoga is good for keeping the body fit. So that means we should do some yoga also. But that is not sufficient for self-realization. So that is not something like an end in all, be all, end all. That is not the case. One has to practice for self-realization. There is Hare Krishna Mahamantra and Bhakti Yoga. And other things will continue to maintain the body fit together. It has become more like a gymnastic, happy gymnastics. That as the yoga has been reduced to. Srila Prabhupada quotes Keshava Smriti. And then, how this Keshava Smriti and the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, they very detailed talk about leaving the body, especially raising one's kundalini and those things. Devotee, as such, Prabhupada says, any yogic process, when done properly, will keep your body fit. Even Bhakti Yoga, we have this Yukta Ahara Viharasya, Yukta Cheshtasya Karmasu, Yukta Swapnava Bodhasya, Yogo Bhavati Dukkha. Yogo Bhavati Dukkha. Right? Yoga will, this Bhakti Yoga will remove your material distress, even the bodily distress, by being yukta or being samatvam yoga uchyate, by being balanced on the platform of yoga. So once the yogis, they have this art of leaving the body, they can leave the body and go for higher destinations. That could means better material standards, that could means better material comforts, better lifespan, or better facility for self-realization. They can go to Svargalok, they can go to Janalok, Tapalok, they can go up to Vaikuntha Lok as well. While the yogis plan to go to different destinations, Bhakti Yoga is the direct process which will elevate one to the Vaikuntha planet. And therefore, Bhakti Yogis, they are concerned not about some destination in between, right? They're always concerned with the greatest destination of all, Yad Gatvana Nivartante, Tad Dhama Paramam Mama. They are always concerned about going back to Vaikuntha and not any material destination in between, right? Text 26. Evam Swadeham Mahatam Mahiyasa Muhussamaropitamangamadarad Jiha Satī Dakṣa Manasvini Dadhara Anilagni. Translation.
Thus, in order to give up her body, which had been so respectfully and affectionately seated on the lap of Lord Shiva, who is worshipped by great sages and saints, Sati, due to anger towards her father, began to meditate on the fiery air within the body. Purport. Lord Shiva is described herein as the best of all great souls. Although Sati's body was born of Daksha, Lord Shiva used to adore her by sitting her on his lap. This is considered a great token of respect. Thus, Sati's body was not ordinary, but still she decided to give it up because it was a source of unhappiness because of its connection with Daksha. This severe example set by Sati is to be followed. One should be extremely careful about associating with persons who are not respectful to the higher authorities. It is instructed, therefore, in the Vedic literature that one should always be free from the association of atheists and non devotees and should try to associate with devotees. For by association of a devotee, one can be elevated to the platform of self realization. This injunction is stressed in many places in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. If one wants to be liberated from all clutches of material existence, then one has to associate with great souls. And if one wants to continue one's material existential life, then one may associate with persons who are materialistic. The materialistic way of life is based on sense gratification life. Thus, both becoming addicted to sense gratification life and associating with the persons who are attached to sense gratificatory life are condemned in the Vedic literature because such association will simply interfere with one's spiritual progress. However, association with great personalities, devotees who are great souls will elevate one to spiritual platform. Sati Devi decided to quit the body she had obtained from Daksha's body and she wanted to transfer herself to another body so that she might have completely uncontaminated association with Lord Shiva. Co- of course, it is understood that her next life, in her next life, she would take birth as a daughter of the Himalayas, Parvati, and then she would again accept Lord Shiva as her husband. Sati and Lord Shiva are eternally related. Even after she changes her body, their relationship is never broken. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah. Thinking like this, that great personality, Manaswini, she, in order to give up her body, which was so respectfully and affectionately being seated on the lap of Lord Shiva, and who is Lord Shiva? Who is worshipped by great sages and saints. Sati began to meditate on the fiery air within the body. Right. So she began to focus on the fire element within the body. So she wanted to raise the fire within the body and just self-illuminate like that in that particular situation. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, Lord Shiva is greatest of the great souls. And sometimes, just to show her affection, Lord Shiva used to make Sati sit on her lap. Right. And now Sati felt this body is so contaminated, it is connected with Daksha in so many ways. And Daksha is so offensive to such a great personality as Lord Shiva. Now, Daksha is my father. I cannot harm him, but I can harm his body by harming myself. This was Sati's attitude. And therefore, she decided to give up the body. And Prabhupada writes here in the purport, this is the severe example set by Sati, and that is to be followed. What is the example? That one should be extremely careful about associating with persons who are not respectful to higher authorities. Right. So, that Prabhupada describes further, Asat Sangatyage Vaishnavachar, that one should be, and then there are many examples in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. But if one wants to elevate in spiritual life, one has to be careful of one's association. Again, association doesn't mean being together. Association means sharing happiness, distress, sharing life together. That is called as association. Right. So on one hand, devotees have to be careful to have a good association. On the other hand, one should not just wall out from the society and just remain aloof in the office or something like that. So this is the careful art of, although one is mixing, but one is not associating. This is very important thing. Sati in this case decided to quit her body and she wanted to transfer herself into another body. Srila Prabhupada writes, Lord Shiva and Sati, they are eternally connected. Their relationship is not the bodily platform, right? Sati is the eternal associate of Lord Shiva. So after quitting this body, she next took birth as the daughter of Himalayas, daughter of the Parvatraj Himalaya, and therefore daughter of Parvat. She is known as Parvati, and again she will be reunited with Lord Shiva. And in next couple of cantos later, we will be seeing Parvati sitting on the lap of Lord Shiva. But that was the completely uncontaminated body. Now, this body she felt is contaminated by her connection with Daksha, and therefore she decided to give up her body. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you,
Jai.
Prabhupada. Thank you, everybody.
Prabhupada.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhupada.
Krishna,
Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank
Thank you,
you,
Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Prabhupada.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you,
Dalvat
Prabhuji. Hare
Ram.
Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Maitreya